The AWARE Project's aim is to balance the public conversation about psychedelics, spread accurate information, and give a new face to psychedelia. We feel that this change will occur through connection and relationship, one individual at a time. We are calling on everyone whose lives have been improved through the mindful use of psychedelics to educate themselves and become ambassadors for the psychedelic experience. Show those around you that people who use psychedelics mindfully cross all social, racial, economic, and political boundaries.
The newest project that I'm working on with Shireen here and another friend, Erica, is to create a psychedelic integration support program. So this is going to be people that have coaching, life coaching, therapy, training, that also have medicine, psychedelic experience training, to be able to support people that are planning to have a powerful psychedelic experience or have already had a powerful psychedelic experience and need help grounding the lessons they learned and creating a practice out of the lessons that they learned. So this is, just to be clear, that we are not providing any medicine, we're just creating the bookends for the experiences that you would find wherever you find them. So I'm really excited about this. We're going to be rolling it out in the next month and a half or so and start doing group events and group meetings, and so just keep an eye on that. If you are interested in the program, either being a facilitator or participating in the program, you can go to theawareproject.org, and there's a link in the menu at the top that says integration, and you can fill out the form to let us know that you're interested in the program if you want to be involved. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And yeah, so with that, I'd like to introduce the other Ashley, Ashley Tomasino. I'm really excited to have you here and excited to see, yeah, it's such an interesting combination of things you're going to be talking about. So with that, I'll let you introduce yourself and give you a hug.
All right, thank you. Ashley. I'm Ashley. All right, well, let's begin by taking a nice deep breath in. I think I've traveled really far to get here. So I traveled really far to get here. I know some people back there traveled really far to get here. So in through your nose. And down through your mouth. So simple, you know? And sometimes we forget to just take a moment. It's so important to take those moments. So, welcome and thank you so very much for coming. So I am a doctoral fellow at the Emperor's College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and it has taken me a very long time to get here. So I am very honored, blessed, and pleased to be able to share my story with you and you know, share some things that I've learned along the way and from all the different perspectives that I've been able to and lucky enough to be able to experience along my journey. So tonight we're going to be talking about the integration of all the different methods and the tools that I've been able to and blessed with being able to work with along my journey. And I'll talk a little bit about how I got started and how I integrate them in my practice, and then a little bit about each one of them, so hopefully you can get a really nice broad perspective and maybe even a little bit of healing tonight. So tonight the topic is bridging the gap between shamanic healing traditions, a cross-cultural analysis. So I'll be talking a little bit about my background, which actually started with shamanism and then really started diving more deeply into traditional Chinese medicine. So I know some of you are actually acupuncturists here, so hopefully you'll really enjoy that aspect of it. All right.
Ashley, can you just talk down the tube like it's like yeah,
this?
Perfect.
Everybody can hear me. Oh, that's kind of loud.
he'll adjust it, just then the static goes down.
I wish I had someone up here to just like hold it up to my face.
Okay.
How's that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. It keeps people listening, you know, when I go, oh, like that, you don't really know what I'm talking about. All right, next slide. Right, next slide. Next slide.
Some guy in the back. There we go.
All right, there we go. Off to a nice smooth start. So the topics of discussion today are modern shamanism. We're going to also be talking about my professional shamanic practice with regards to integrative medicine, and shipibo shamanism, daoism, daoist priests, and traditional Chinese medicine. Next slide. So, welcome to the Psychedelic Awareness Salon. If you notice in this picture, it is kind of disturbing. Well, not when I wake up to that picture in the morning because
I hope that's not what our events are.
But this really describes to me what's really going on underneath the surface in the world today. You know, we've got a lot of suffering. Look at this kid. I mean, he didn't get his Cheerios in the morning, he's upset. You've got the sun over there, the sun's too hot. You got the snakes and this like lizard thing, it's a mess. But to me, this is actually what's going on underneath the surface. This is what I see in my practice, this is what I see when I travel. So what's really going on? You know, when a doctor sees a patient and they come in and they've got these symptoms where they're going through serious spiritual illness, oftentimes they're prescribed prescription drugs, which then they abuse. And we're actually going from, I think some of the stats were, last year there was 42,773 suicides, and each year it's rising. Now that's just suicides related to drugs. And then underneath that, let's talk about all the people that maybe haven't committed suicide but are suffering greatly to the point that maybe they want to. That is not a way to live. And it is, I've seen it when I've worked in hospitals, I've experienced it myself, so it's really important to really take a look at what's going on underneath the surface. Next slide. The other pictures are going to be a lot prettier, I promise. Okay, so that's me. I probably didn't really have to put a picture up there because I'm right here. But I thought I looked really cute, so. So my credentials, so I have a bachelor's degree in biomedical science and neurology and kinesiology from the National University of Health Sciences. So I originally wanted to be a chiropractor, and I sat in class and I was bored out of my mind because nobody talked about the spirit. You know, I'd ask these questions and no one knew what I was talking about. And so then I got my master's in traditional Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. E-commerce? Anyone? No? One. Oh my God, one! You probably are in so much debt. Oh my God. All right, so this whole presentation is for you. I'm telling you. I knew it. One person was going to get something out of this. You are going to love it. All right, doctoral fellow at Empress College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. So.
Let's switch the mics for a second.
Is it too loud?
Is it working?
It's just the static.
Yes.
Oh, it's staticky? Oh, okay. So you gotta hear my jokes.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, that's smooth. So doctoral fellow at Traditional Chinese Medicine, 10 years, baby, 10 years, non-stop. I'm gonna collapse by the time I leave here. All right, shamanic practitioner since 2009. I'll explain more about that later. I swear to God, it's legit. So for my doctoral thesis, I'll just really quick. My original thesis was that I wanted to prove that you can access deja vu through stimulating the neurological pathways with acupuncture points on scalp points with acupuncture. And when I originally had explained that in front of my classmates and the professors and stuff like that, they looked at me like I was totally out of my mind. But I might just end up doing it anyway and having fun with it. So, next slide. All right, so how did I get into shamanism? Okay, number one, either you get into shamanism because it's cool, which it is, or you get into shamanism because you really need it and you're really suffering. And the way that I got into shamanism was really tragic to me and very difficult and devastating. Imagine, if you will, your best, well, I actually don't want you to tune into that, but my best friend, my only friend growing up, her name was Kelly, from 8 years old to 17 years old. I mean, she was, my best friend, most beautiful, even to this day, most beautiful, amazing person I've ever met. Totally touched my life. Never met anybody like her since. She had a very unfortunate, tragic situation where she accidentally overdosed on cocaine and alcohol, and then someone had given her sleeping pills because she tried to go to sleep. She couldn't sleep because of the cocaine, and it was an accident. And her last words were she didn't want to die. And that was when I was 17, and for 5 years, I still called her phone. I would see someone down the street that looked like her, and I would run and grab them. I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I lost my spirit. I went with her, basically. Nothing could convince me that she had actually passed. Until the 5-year anniversary of her death, I went to play a semi-professional soccer game. It was my tryout game for the Windy City Waters in Chicago. And I blew out my knee. I tore my ACL. I did this move, it's called the Cruyff move, where you take the ball and you just like drag it behind your leg, and then my plantar really just blew, and the goalie on the other side of the field said that it sounded like a gunshot. Well, it was a gunshot not only to my knee, but it was a gunshot to my spirit. I held that pain in there so deeply that no one could touch it. I wouldn't even let anybody close to me because I was afraid that they would die. There's nothing more painful than seeing your best friend in a coffin. Nothing. So then I ended up getting knee surgery. Well, let me backtrack. When I finally realized that she was dead, I went to school and I had a nervous breakdown, and I ended up going out into the middle of the hallway, and I laid down and I was in a fetal position. I was inconsolable. The woman that came to get me was soon to be my shamanic teacher, and she came to get me. She said, "Come into my office now." So I go into her office. I laid down. She puts her hands underneath my head. A couple of minutes later, she pulls around. She tells me everything about my friend. I didn't tell her anything, by the way. Just totally inconsolable. She told me everything about my friend, how it happened, why it happened, how it was going to change my life forever. I mean, to the T, she can describe exactly what my friend looked like. And she goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm teaching this Intro to Shamanic Journey class. You should totally come." Just take a deep breath. It's like a lot of years right there. So I take the class, and it changed my life forever. Now I teach that class, and I love it. It's my passion. And it's rooted in the love that I had for Kelly. Just everything I do now is rooted so much in that love. Anyway, so I ended up taking the class, and it just opened up my mind, everything. And then I ended up having knee surgery, and the screws were too big. The doctor let the screws in my knees. I couldn't walk for 4 years. So not only did I have pain from that experience on an emotional level, I couldn't play soccer anymore. I was a pretty good soccer player. It was my life. So not only did I lose my friends, suddenly realized that, but now all of a sudden I lost my identity. I lost everything that truly mattered to me. I mean, not everything, but I thought at least if I don't have her, I have soccer. So that's where I planted all my energy, and literally it blew. So it forced me to sit. It forced me to sit with myself. I could not walk, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't even lift my leg. Luckily, I was in acupuncture school, so I really bridged these practices together with acupuncture, which was amazing, so I'll talk more about that. Next slide. So what is shamanism exactly? I really tune into it because everybody actually really knows what it is. On this deeper conscious level, we actually really know everything. So if you take a look at that picture, shamanism is this freedom, like an eagle. It's this spiritual aspect of life. It's the movement in life. It's the energy in life that we can all connect to. It's beautiful. It's expansive. It's movement. It's colors. It's life. Next slide. So it's the oldest medicinal practice in the world. It's basically what other medicinal practices are based on. And when you connect to the essence of shamanism, you actually really connect to the essence of how medicine first came about originally. And it's basically the way that we communicate to spirit. So when we're connecting to spirit, essentially we're practicing shamanism. And when I talk about spirit, I mean higher level spirit. God-like spirit, or the plants, animals, the wisdom of nature. Next slide. I really like this picture because to me it emanates, what shamanism is all about. Clearly you see this woman, she's getting healed, her heart's being healed, she's receiving this energy, there's movement, there's this jaguar going on, they're connecting to the jaguar energy. This is a shaman shape-shifting into the owl, he's connecting to the plant spirit, and he's allowing this energy to just come through and touch her heart. It's just a beautiful aspect. This is why I love shamanism, is because I get to touch people on such a deep level. It's incredible. Next slide. So who are these shaman anyway? Do they have to be people that have a headdress? Do they have to be old men? I don't know. When you think of a shaman, who do you think of? Really think about it. Have you ever met a shaman? Would you know who a shaman was if they walked past you on the street? Does it matter? That's another good question. Does it really matter if we know who the shaman are or if they're shaman? And oftentimes it's the word shaman is very overused. But I really like this picture. It's very beautiful. Next slide. So the shaman, they act as a portal. So they integrate the heaven and earth into this physical body. They allow this consciousness to come through so that we can experience the divinity of ourselves. And they're also known as medicine men or women, and like I said, oftentimes the term is very overused. Like I live in San Diego, so everybody's a shaman down there. So you see that shaman? Yeah, I know about shaman. That shaman's on his iPad. Next slide. Among the community, so there's different ways that someone can become a shaman. I'll talk about the initiation, but oftentimes, so our studies of ancient shamanic cultures indicate that tribal shamans were often chosen on how they overcame personal adversity. So, one time I had a ceremony and I was laying there, I was like, oh my God, it was just so much pain. I don't know what happened to me. I drank ayahuasca and I was just like dying, and I just wanted to try out this one ceremony with this guy. I didn't even know this guy. It was the dumbest idea ever, but I was laying there and he comes up to me and I was like, have you ever experienced pain? And he looked back at me and he was like, no. And it was just like, what? That doesn't even make sense. And why did I ask that in the first place? But how is it that you're a shaman and you haven't experienced pain? It doesn't even make sense to me. Because you have to have some sort of reflection with other people and connection with other people to be able to even hold space for them, in my opinion. So this is considered the single most pivotal step onto the path of shamanism. You have had to have some sort of experience that broke you down to the point that you had to reach for that kind of consciousness. It doesn't just appear to you, in my opinion. All of this actually is kind of my opinion in my research, but next slide. So trauma is a path to awakening. I found this was really interesting that the DSM-IV, which is what psychologists and probably psychiatrists and everybody else uses to determine psychological disorders and things like that, actually recognizes a spiritual crisis as being a shamanic experience. That's how many times have you met somebody in your life, maybe you haven't or have, but how many times have you met somebody who had a serious breakdown and they were actually judged for it, or they were locked up, or they were just really held down from their experience. But actually it could really be this opportunity for this deep inner wisdom and this really strong, beautiful person to come through it. And actually they were just breaking down their psychological barriers to what was really true for them. So it's interesting. Anyway, next slide. Okay, so the initiation of the shaman. So this is culturally across the board common, where the person experiences a spiritual crisis and the community basically says, okay, you've overcome this really difficult experience, you're very wise, and we actually feel healed. That's the thing, you want to feel very comfortable, healed, just aware when you're around this person. If you feel really uncomfortable and things are kind of off, it's important to kind of take a look at that. Next slide. So, the picture kind of sucks. All right. Shaman in the community. So I like this picture because it's very unique actually, and I kind of thought about Okay, so this is like a tax accountant over here. He's sitting there just in his taxes, really tired, and then you've got this college student, and this guy's just out of it. This girl just went to Gap. And the shaman is just like right in the center, and he's just allowing all these people to be who they are. And he's totally okay with it. She's ready to just hit on that guy. She's just waiting for him. She's gonna take off her clothes any minute. But he's got the medicine. He knows how to connect to each one of these personalities. He's accepting each one of these people. And this is kind of how the shaman is in the community. They're able to really connect with all these people. Next slide. So here's an example of someone that I've been working with very closely for 8 years. And her name is Lizette Rodriguez, and she's a Native American Colombian shaman. She's amazing. I really love working with her. She just kind of, if I'm having a bad day, she's like, hey, you're having a bad day? How did you know that? But this is kind of how, I experience shamanic practitioners is that they're really attuned to the people that they work with, which is great. Sometimes kind of a lot, but it's really great. So I really love her. And then, so next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how she practices. Next slide. So she practices spider medicine. And spider medicine really talks about weaving illusion. So going into, the web of what helps us to connect with life. There are these energetic streams between all of us and between our our chakras and our meridians and the places where we can connect to the earth and the sky and the trees. And I've had her work on me before, and she kind of works like a spider. She's like twisting and touching things and moving things and stuff like that. It's very interesting. So this is a different type of shamanism. And she works here and in Colombia. Beautiful person. Next slide. Okay. So this is Ricardo. No, Ricardo Amarengo, he owns a center at Niue Ra, which is in Iquitos, Peru, and I've been working with him on and off for the last 4 years. Ricardo is amazing in my experience. A couple of you guys have worked with Ricardo before. And from my knowledge, I'm going to say I'm like 90%, I think I'm right about this, but I'm pretty sure that he did 2 years of isolation. And so what he did to become a shamanic practitioner was that he had to diet different plants. And I'll talk about what that means to diet plants. But basically you learn about the plants through connecting with them and being on a diet. So if you want to go ahead and take a deep breath in, I'm going to show you a little clip of what it feels like to connect with a legit curandero. You can really feel his energy come through the sound. It's incredible. So take a nice deep breath in, really bring yourself here, really open yourself up to the possibility that even tonight you can experience a healing. So go ahead and please press play. I feel the jungle, you'll be able to hear the jungle. I don't know how to fit, like, I don't know what to say. Next slide. Ricardo works here. This is his Maloca in Peru. And I have probably had at least like 100 ceremonies here. At least. Very powerful. Even just, hearing it really brings me back. It's very powerful. I have so much gratitude, for this person. The amount of compassion that this man has is incredible. And I mean, just the amount of compassion that he has if he sits in front of you is enough to purge whatever it is that you're carrying. Like just that consciousness alone. Never mind even having an Ikaro that's specific for you. So, very beautiful center. So this is shipibo shamanism, and the shipibos are traditionally from Pucallpa in Peru, and they mainly focus on working with ayahuasca, which is, some of you may know what ayahuasca is, or maybe you're curious, which is why you're here. So ayahuasca is a psychoactive brew, mixed the ayahuasca vine with chacruna leaf, and when you mix it together, it creates a psychoactive brew that you drink in a ceremonial context, and it's very useful for helping you purge things and heal things and have an amazing experience. Next slide. Okay, so that's chacruna and ayahuasca, the ayahuasca vine, and then that's what the brew looks like. Next slide. That's my dad. Anyone have the Aya talk with their dad? That's the real kind of space. Are you kidding me? What? I was like, I can do it a little more.
Ash, what are you drinking down there? Are you kidding me? What? I'm gonna be just like Steve Jobs.
That's my dad. I'm just gonna leave this on for the rest of the night. Okay, next slide. Alright, so this is Alban. And so I wanted to highlight a couple practitioners that I've really had a great experience with, just to kind of give you, some perspective that we're not all like hippies or anything. Like this is actually a legitimate person. He has glasses on. He's got a shirt on, a little bit of chest hair. So he's totally amazing. He did a year dieta, which is fantastic. I don't know. I think David, maybe did you meet him?
I think he was in his combo most of the time that I was out there.
Yeah, that's good. So he was in his tombo, but I was fortunate enough to have an experience with him where he told me some really amazing things and really made my dieting experience very powerful and potent, and very special human being that really means a lot to me. So next slide. So there's another picture of him. I just kind of I went through some pictures on my computer, and just to kind of let you know, like these shamanic practitioners, they're human beings too. They probably wear like American Eagle clothes or something, and they eat food. Next slide. Shamanic journeying. Okay, so this is what I call my professional practice, essentially. So since I graduated in 2013 from PCOM, I was working my butt off trying to pass the stupid board exams, the California Acupuncture Board, which is super hard and really shouldn't even exist. But in the time that I was taking it 4 times, when I didn't have a heart attack, I was working. And so I'm going to be talking about my shamanic practice because it's really fun and I really love it and I'm so grateful for it. Next slide. Okay, so shamanic journeying is over 40,000 years old and is the first organized form of healing. Shamanism is defined by the journeying process. So, that's really great. You go to ceremony, you drink the medicine, okay, you sit there, you vomit, you have visions. But what I like to do is really incorporate the practice of journeying with intention and intention for helping others within your journey. So like if I were going to journey for Ashley, I would go into the journey space and I would actually, view what's going on with her. And so I was able to kind of like happenstance, just like go to work one day and I was like, what am I gonna do for work? And I just grabbed my drum and I got this office and I just started drumming and all of a sudden people just started coming to my office wanting to listen to the drum and wanting to like get all this healing stuff, and it was really cool. Next slide. These are actually the objectives for my class. So I teach a shamanic journeying class, but the same objectives apply to my practice, essentially. So I'll just read them really quick. Journeying to portals into the shamanic realms. You might think some of this is kind of like really out there, but to me it's like in my world. But learning to access higher level guides in different worlds, releasing and dispelling intrusions, entities, and illnesses, learning how to navigate and work with the four directions, and working with ancestors and healing lineage. So many of these different things that are actually going on underneath the surface are actually affecting us on a physical level, psychological level, mental level, all these different levels, and they're happening underneath the surface. So my practice is based on really going underneath the surface with people and helping to unravel those things so that people can take a look at it in a safe way. Next slide. This is a really beautiful painting that I love from Anderson de Bernardi. I was going to have another picture of Anderson. He's a really amazing artist, and so I have it up here because even though in my practice, like I was trained without any sort of drugs, without medicine, and I prefer it that way because then you learn how to tap into that space just by yourself. But you can still have visions like this, even with just listening to the drum or listening to music. It's just a matter of getting really clear and centered and cleaning up your space. Next slide. So what does shamanic journeying involve? It involves journeying to different realms of your subconscious. So actually involves entrance into lower, middle, and upper worlds. So I'm not going to go too deep into the details about this, but essentially that describes, which in Native American shamanism, that would describe the parallels with psychology, which would be like the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the superconscious mind. So we're journeying to these different aspects of what's inside of us. Does anybody need a break? Oh my God. I just ran a mile. Hold on. Next slide. When we're journeying, we are learning how to view people from a very compassionate space. The more that we work on ourselves, we're able to see people as they are, and this alone heals them, which it really encourages me to work on myself because I can look at then anyone who lays on my table and provide a safe space, which is really important, something that might even be lacking in Western medicine. I don't know, it's just a different type of practice, but that alone I find is incredibly healing, and it actually allows an opening for things to be purged. I mean, I've literally seen just sitting with people in my office, like crap come off of them, like, just little fifth dimensional kind of things. I mean, it can get really out there if you're not used to that kind of stuff, but compassion is such a huge healing energy that is very important for practitioners and all of us to have. It's very healing. Next slide. So, working with your guides. How many of you here know who your guides are? Probably a bunch of people that are in my class. Really all the people that are in my class, maybe one or two other people. Okay, you guys all need to take my class. So this is a picture that I took when I was going to Peru for the first time, and I was standing there in line, and I was like, I don't even know why I'm here, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't even know what ayahuasca is, and I was in the airport, and I was like, okay, God, okay. And I was about to get on the plane, I was like, give me a sign that I meant to go to Peru, and I closed my eyes. And I open up my eyes, and there's this kid that just like appeared out of nowhere, and he's got this backpack on that says, I love you, Ashley. Okay, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like a deer that came up and just like started talking to me. It was, your guides work in mysterious ways. Okay. Be open to that, like one of your guides probably was like, hey, you should go to this event. All right, so how should you feel when you're connecting with a guide? These are the things that you should be feeling when you're connecting with guides. If you're connecting with your guides, I think I just said that. You should be connecting to those things, basically. And your guides teach you how to have faith. They teach you how to have healthy relationships. They teach you about yourself. So they're really important to have in your life. And it could be, a physical guide. It could be, a tree. You really like a tree. You want to go talk to a tree or something like that. Okay, next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this kind of applies to me. My guides are really out there. But your guides are just like you. They're more pure, different aspects of you. Because it's how you're able to connect with them. And they're teaching you about yourself. Next slide. So anytime you feel like there's a push or a pull in a certain direction, you're just like, whoa, what is that? Maybe it's your guide. I don't know. Next slide. I thought that was just a really cool picture. Alright, so some of the common guides. You've got a lion, you've got a white tiger, snake, buffalo, horse, rabbit, hawk, eagle. If you notice, maybe like, you're going on a walk and there's like 6 rabbits that are just running around your legs, maybe your guide is a rabbit. So for me, one of my main guides is a lion. I really like the lion. So when I first started doing this kind of work, I was just seeing lions everywhere. And every time I saw a lion, I just felt really in tune with myself, really connected to myself. And that's how you should feel. You should feel very much in alignment, guided, literally, and, good. Next slide. Okay, so some of the things that you can compare with Native American shamanism and shipibo shamanism. And I use Native American shamanism. I'm not a Native American shaman, and I don't know. My teacher was a Celtic shaman, but I guess I don't know. I'm kind of lost in the context. But animal guides, totems, shipibo shamanism, master plants, allies. So Native American shamanism works, in my opinion, more with animal guides. Yet they still communicate telepathically, manifest within ordinary reality. And I consider the backpack to be the manifesting in ordinary reality. And you become one with, you really connect with, so in the practice that I teach, when you meet your guide, let's say there's a lion that came up here, when the guide is ready to work with you, what do? They eat you. And you become one with you. Then you're able to shapeshift and take on their qualities. And just as much as you learn from them, they learn from you. So in shipibo shamanism, it's very similar where you work with the plants. The plants teach you, they guide you, they have this affinity towards you, and you communicate with them and manifest them in ordinary reality. I don't know how many times I've seen the essence of ayuma or the essence of piñón blanco, which are plants that are common in shipibo practice, come in through my life. Next slide. This is kind of how I feel when I work. So I go to work, I get dressed up and stuff, and then I just sort of like hop into this whole other realm. It's kind of like that. It's this dreamlike state. The shamanic state of consciousness is allowing us to connect to the dreamlike state. And I'll talk a little bit more about the neurological aspect of that. Next slide. Someone was telling me that I should actually just wear that outfit. It's really what's going on here. Okay, so there was a study. I got a study. Someone told me that I needed to have this in here, so it was probably one of my guides. I still have a mustache on. Oh my god. So Melinda Maxfield, she's from Stanford, so she's pretty legit. She asked, would drumming patterns elicit images or sensations with a common theme? So she divided 12 participants into 3 groups. 1, shamanic drumming, 2, I Ching drumming, and 3, just like a regular whatever drumming. So the shamanic drumming had 4 to 4.5 beats per second. So for all of you or any of you that have been in my office, I drum really fast. And I don't know if you want me to do a little sample, I will, but this kind of drumming is the kind of drumming that will actually elicit the release of dimethyltryptamine. So there was a study where she used a cortical EEG that helped to show that there were neurophysiological benefits to listening to the shamanic drum, which activated the different parts of the brain that helped to release dimethyltryptamine, which it's released during and right before REM sleep. So if you're able to be awake during that time where you're about to go into this dreamlike state, you can actually start to learn how to navigate those dreams, which are your subconscious mind, which have a lot of the belief systems and the memories and all this and that inside of them. So it's very effective in helping to counsel people, because you can talk to someone all day long, but if they're not in that state of mind where they can access this neuroplastic ability to change their brain waves, to change their thought patterns, to start to relax around the stories and neutralize the charges around certain things and recreate stories, then you're actually just kind of, you know, digging around with them. I mean, it's just go deep, go there. Touch those places that are really difficult to take a look at, and you can do that with the shamanic drumming. And what I really like about that is that in my practice, I usually see people between like an hour to an hour and a half, and in that time I do 3 sequences. So the first sequence is kind of like taking a look for about 15 minutes. You know, I'm just going in, I'm drumming, and I'm actually doing this journey where I'm taking a look at what's going on, and I'm seeing how the person is reacting to the drum. You know, are they moving around? Are they kind of uncomfortable? What's going on? And then the second part of it, I come out of it and I tell them what I saw. I tell them what's going on with them from my perspective when I'm journeying. The second part of it, I'm actually doing some work, you know, connecting them with their guides, doing some soul retrieval, doing some, you know, getting the intrusions out, I don't know, stuff like that. And by that time, by the second time, they are relaxed. There is a legitimate physiological difference. They look better, they feel better. Usually, you know, whatever it is that they were thinking about and worried about is relaxed, because naturally they're going to start neutralizing those belief systems around whatever the story was. It's really effective. I've seen immediate results. You can talk to some of my clients who are here, thank God. Okay. And then the third part of it is where I wrap everything up and I do some protection around it, so then when they leave, you know, they're really vulnerable, they're really open, because those things that held their belief systems in place are now more open. They don't have those shields of stories about who they think that they are on there anymore. So they're kind of like walking out into the world as babies. Next slide. So, you know, essentially we're stimulating the pineal gland, and we're allowing this deep trance-like space to help us access this whole other realm. Next slide. There. So, okay, so for example, my teacher told me that if I don't have my drum, I can still access that journey space. So I was sitting in class and I was taking this exam for Chim 3, which is basically like the 3rd level of herbs, and I totally didn't know what the answers was. It was like, what 2 herbs would you give this guy if he had oatmeal in the morning and he had this problem? So I was like, okay, I don't know what the answer is. So I started tapping on my desk really fast, and I start going into a journey, and all of a sudden I'm like sucked through the straw, and I just like end up in this guy's body, and all of a sudden I'm looking, and there's a spoon, and there's some oatmeal, and I look, and there's Haterma and Hataren, which is sesame seed and help. What did I forget it? Anyway, what? Really help. Okay. Anyway, the answers were right there, and so then I wrote it on my test and I got it right. So that was pretty cool. That's not cheating, okay? Don't tell my teacher. So, what was it? Okay, guys, let's just see here, understand me. Okay. Anyway, next slide. Yeah, that's for you, Ash.
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't know what's going on with her neck. She's got some hit by her boyfriend or something.
Maybe they're hickeys.
That's why she's crying. Oh yeah, they're hickeys. She's so all right, next slide. Embrace the journey. You're on a journey right now. You're so crazy. All right, next slide. I saw that at Target. It was like $3. Master plants. Okay, so master plants are, you know, part of the shipibo shamanism tradition, and I really wanted to talk about my journey with master plants because I feel like it was a really beautiful integration with, you know, just learning more about Chinese medicine and learning about Ayahuasca shamanism. The master plants really helped me solidify and clean myself up and learn about telepathic communication. Next slide. Avoid gurus, follow the plants. Next slide. So this is a plant, or this is a tree that I guided for 2 months in isolation. I would say kind of loosely isolation. I came out to talk to all the cute guys, but so this is Ayahuasca. So this is one of the this huge tree. I mean, just like takes up the whole jungle. And they say that Ayahuasca is the queen of the jungle, and I gotta tell you that it's definitely true. So when I first got to Niue Rao, actually this is when I was working with Ricardo, I told Ricardo that I needed a lot of protection because I was dealing with some really heavy things and I was being investigated. It's a long story, I'm not going to get into it, but there's something going on and I needed to have a lot of protection. I needed to be in isolation and I needed to be out of the country. So, everything's okay, it's all okay. It's all okay. But so some of the I was kind of debating whether I was going to bring that up, but if you Google my name, nothing comes up, so that's good. So there's master plants. So master plants, one of them is Ayahuasca. Some of these that I'm going to list off, I'm just listing off for, because I'm going to, but Pinot Blanco, Marosa, Trix, Nanga, Ayuma, Bombinsana, all these different plants, they help us to learn more about ourselves and to heal different aspects of ourselves by connecting with them. When you work with them, you want to do a diet. You usually want to do a diet in isolation so then you can really have a strong connection with them. It's just like, when you're in a relationship, maybe you don't want to cheat on the person, you just kind of want to be right there with them, and so that you can just download information, you can just have this experience with them. Because the plants learn from us, we learn from them. It's a really powerful experience. Next slide. So when you're in isolation, you have a ton of time to draw and experience and just unleash all the things that maybe you wish you could have said to yourself and heal yourself and listen to yourself. So this is something that I drew when I was there, and this is very true. So I actually heard the trees say this to me: I'm not always visible. I may not always be visible, but I am always here for you. And this is true. All the plants, this is how they feel with us, I believe. It's very beautiful. I mean, imagine if you heard that from your best friend or someone that you really cared about. I may not always be here physically, but I am always with you. Next slide. That kind of love is a protection. So when you're dieting some of the bigger plants, this is basically what you eat: a fish, a plantain, and maybe a potato. That's it. You just want to clean out your diet. You don't want anything to be interacting with the consciousness of that plant. So these are bland foods. You got your protein, you got a little, I don't know, whatever I got from these other foods, but I just basically ate like that. I was so hungry, I ate the head off that fish. I was a badass. That's why I'm wearing this jacket right now. Just kidding. So that's what you eat, and every day, once the food is served to you, you're just like you just like run over to the food. All right, next slide. So when you're in isolation, I would suggest everybody in this room, and now I'm not soliciting anything, I'm not soliciting? I'm not soliciting or soliciting anything. But it is really important to take the time sometime out of your life to just disconnect and reconnect, So much of our lives are really infiltrated by a bunch of crap and a bunch of just stuff. So when I went into isolation, I was able to have the space to introspect, to purge, to process, integrate, listen, sing, and actually hear my inner voice. I didn't even know what my voice sounded like. It was so just encumbered by projections and false belief systems and all this stuff that I had to sift through to really find really who I was. And with the Ayuma, I was able to connect to this plant that was very rooted in herself, which is what I needed. Next slide. That's me working on my Popeye impressions. This is what you do in isolation. Next slide. And this is, how I felt when I got out of it. You really feel like when you're working with the plants and you're in isolation, you're able to cocoon yourself like a caterpillar that's going to be a butterfly. Is that right? Caterpillar becomes. I'm in a doctoral program, so I can, forget some of these basic things from 3rd grade. So experience that I had was really profound because I felt like I was inside of the tree, and then when my diet was done, it was like this woman came out that I didn't even know, but it was really cool because it was the first time in my life that I really wanted to get to know myself and was proud to be myself. It was very profound. Next slide. And this is just a poem that I wrote. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'll just read it because it kind of took like 30 seconds. It just like came through me, but I'm being quarantined to be quality, released sometime in reality, so that I can see from a clean lens rather than from suffering. And so it is, I'm facing life apart from my community. A shaman is birthed patiently. No longer will I be sick with human disease, carried down from generations of families. So I take on this task of fighting darkness to see the light of knowing truth amongst false illusions and fear, so that I may represent what others know but may question, a strong, noble leader. I don't know if she really looks like me, but that's just what came out. It was really, I just really encourage people to go inside as much as possible. There's a lot of beauty in there. A lot of beauty in there. Next slide. So after the dieta, you might lose a lot of weight because, like you saw, you're really not eating a lot of food, you're not really eating a lot of fats, and so I lost like 15 pounds in 2 months. So those are my legs. And I may have been very weak physically, but my spirit was very strong. And my love for the world and myself was very strong. Next slide. When you work with people, you might become a little bit like them. You might pick up the traits from your teachers, the great qualities that they have, and this is because when you're apprentice. I didn't have a formal apprenticeship with Joe. That's Joe Tafur. He's a doctor who co-owns Niue Rao, really fantastic person. And I've learned a lot from him, and I spent a lot of time, really learning about him and his practice and how he works with people. It was very inspiring. And so this is what happens when you work really closely with Joe. You might grow a beard. You can't see it, but there's a banana on my shorts. I cut that out. I didn't know what kind of crowd was going to be here, so after your dieta, you're really going to want to integrate things. And that's actually, it's like, when the diet opens, it's challenging, but it's even more challenging when it closes because then you don't have the support from your diet. You're not in isolation anymore. The shaman's not physically with you, so it's really challenging to maintain that space within yourself. When I interviewed Alban, who's the French guy that I was talking about earlier, he talked a lot about integration. He was, because after you do a year of isolation, it's pretty intense. After 2 months, I was like, I was totally tripping all the time. It was really strong. I could hear people thinking. You want to really learn how to ground yourself, and that's the thing with shamanic practitioners and in your own life. The more grounded you are, the more that you're allowed to have that consciousness, that spiritual guidance to just root inside of you and root into the ground. It feels really good, and it's also really, all of us have this practice. Next slide. So apprenticeship and learning, when you're apprenticing, you're going to want to be in isolation. So this is the Tambo in Iquitos that I stayed in for X amount of time over the last 4 years. Anytime you want to be in isolation, so they end up, serving you food over that little stand. I don't know if you guys over to my right can see. And then, so this is a solitary hut that the Daoist priests go into. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Daoist priests. Next slide. This is where Venerable Cho Lee in 1839 stayed in for 43 years. That is dedication. That is dedication. That is incredible. All he had inside of there was just what you see, basically, like the wood, and that's about it. And then people would serve him food, and that's it. So that's some dedication right there. Next slide. And then this is what he used to bring water, so they were just like little bamboo thingies. And then the water would come down from all the way at the end, and then it would come into his, I want to call it tambo, but his solitary hut. Next slide. And then that's a rendering of what he looked like. Next slide. Okay, so ceremony. Who here has been to ceremony? Sorry, you been to ceremony? Or in Peru, or where'd you go?
Canada and here.
Okay, you don't have to tell me where. we're here. But yeah, it's ceremony everywhere you go is going to be very different depending on what lineage someone practiced from, and what people really value. And you've got the Santo Daime, you've got the UDV, you've got acupuncturists that are practicing and serving ayahuasca. And when I refer to ceremony, I'm specifically referring to ayahuasca. Next slide. Well, and daoist ceremony, which is different. So these are actually some of my tools which are sitting here, and this I brought to, I've sat in almost 300 ceremonies in the last 4 years, and this drum has been with me through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ceremonies. It's been through so many ceremonies, it has a mustache. So, next slide. So I'm actually gonna skip the ikros. I wanted to show a different type of ikro that's mainly for cleaning, and so then you can kind of get a feel for the different ikro styles. The one that you listened to earlier was actually just ikros for Niue Rao, specifically just for Niue Rao, but this sounds different, or would sound different if we're going to say we're going to listen to it, because it's specifically for cleaning the mind, the soul, and the body. So with shipibo ceremony, it lasts between 3 to 8 hours. Often in the evening, dieta to prepare, and it's guided by a maestro or a curandero. So a curandero is like a guide with the medicine, a maestro is a singer, also a guide with the medicine, and then you have an ayahuasquero, which is also like Ricardo. Next slide. So when the shaman sings ikros, they're actually singing the ikros that they learned from the plants. So the plants, when they diet the plants teach them the songs, and the songs will come through, and they'll channel those songs, and they don't even have to think about it, it'll just come through. So these designs are what the shaman will see when they sing, and it'll imprint sort of like on the energy field of the person. So when a person's energy field is very sick, or they're going through something, you're going to see issues with the designs around their body. And when the shaman sings the ikros and they create these designs, they're related to the song, and they're related to the healing that's necessary for the patient or the person. And it's derived from the Quechua verb ikare, which means to blow smoke in order to heal. Next slide. All right, so what I wanted to do is, compare all these different cultures. And Daoism, so the Daoist priests can be compared to the curanderos or the maestros, because they hold a space for spiritual growth, and they also channel, the energy from the heavens and bring it into the earth. So the Daoist priests connect with Daoism, which is an ancient religion based on various Chinese philosophies, religions, and customs. The Tao is central to Daoism. And so in Chinese medicine, we really focus on the Tao and the way that the Tao is broken down and how that relates to disorder, dysfunction, and illness in the body. So you have yin and yang, so you probably heard about yin and yang. So you've got, yin organ systems, yin channels, yin diseases. You've got yang organ systems, yang channels, yang diseases. And the way that they balance each other really shows us a picture of what's going on at the root of a person's illness. Next slide. So a Taoist ceremony is very different from a shipibo ceremony, because it lasts for days, and they involve the whole community, and it's this, there's no medicine involved. That's one of the main things, is that there's no psychoactive medicine that's involved. The Taoist priests, when they do their practice, it's very similar in their preparation, in that there's an initiation, and they go through their meditation, and they, channel spirit, and, they really want to learn the different mudras and the incantation, so then they can channel different spirits to work with them to heal the community or heal a certain person in ceremony, and they have to learn what the spirit looks like when they work with the spirit. So what kind of robe they wear, what kind of energy they have, and what song maybe would be related to them. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's temple rituals that can be used to regulate chi, balance the flow of the entire community. So it's a little bit more community-based from my understanding. Next slide. So, I should have went for a jog or something earlier today. I was super tired. So you have daoist and shipibo ceremony again. So the main difference is, there are a lot of differences, but one is that the daoists actually use the Tao Te Ching, and the shipibo shamans, they work with ayahuasca, so they channel the consciousness of ayahuasca, where the daoists use the channeling and the energy of the Tao Te Ching to understand what's going on. Next slide. So Chinese medicine and integration. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the experiences that I've had while I was working in hospitals and working around the country or other countries. Next slide. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes?
No, 20. Around 20, a little bit more.
It's,
okay.
well, we're trying to finish in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
You guys have the room till 11.
What?
Okay, I know,
What number
but
slide is this?
64?
Okay, so we're gonna speed on through. So this is a tobacco. I worked with a tobacco when I was in Peru. Last time I was there, tobacco is incredibly awesome and related to Chinese medicine. I'll tell you why. Next slide. Slogan's awesome, by the way. So in the when I went to Amaro Spirit, which is in Iquitos, they took my pulses, which I thought was really interesting because it was the first time that I actually worked with a shipibo shaman that took pulses. Very cool. And what they do is they take a look at where you have blockages, and they give you. Can you hear me? Oh, this is the one that's kind of fuzzy. Can you guys hear me? If I'm gonna talk really loud, you can't hear me? Okay.
they'll try and fix the other one. Just use that.
Okay, so this is gonna hold this over for a moment. Anyway, so they take pulses. Next slide. One of the main things that we have in common with shamanism is the way that we look at the relationship between the elements and the organ systems. And so this is just a rendering of kind of how it all looks and how it breaks down together. Next slide. And so traditional Chinese medicine, for some of you that don't know, it's one of the oldest medicinal practices that's based on the relationship that energy moves throughout the body and how we can heal the body through energetic imbalances. Next slide. So one of the main things that Chinese medicine and shipibo shamanism or shamanism has in common is the idea of blockages. So when someone has a blockage in their meridians and their organ systems, it's very similar to in shamanism when a shaman will clear the blocks that's also in maybe the subconscious mind or the conscious mind and past lives, things like that. And I found that the liver channel is one of the main channels that's blocked. Can you hear me now? Okay. Next slide. Okay, so this was a patient that I had, and when I was working in the hospital, it was very unique. So he came to me, he was a 45-year-old man, and he came to me with a twisted optic nerve. Okay, I was working in the hospital. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna help you. There's no way that I'm gonna be able to help you. So the reason that he had a twisted optic nerve was because his ex-boyfriend had hit him across the head with a 2x4. He had facial twitching. When he came to me, I felt like it was a helpless case. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna think about, in shamanism, like, what could we do? All right, so I had him imagine when he's sitting in the chair that he was actually looking through and stretching the optic nerve through the wall. And then I needled him in the exact places that he was hit. So I had him remember where he was hit and then needle. So I had him actually bring up that energetic connection and that trauma and then needle right there. 1 treatment, 30% better. 4 treatments, 90% better. And then he forgot about it. And he had been struggling with this for like 12 years. Next slide. All right, So just for some of you that have never seen a picture of, the channels, this is kind of not really a clear picture, but I thought it was really cool. So, next slide. So shamanism and Chinese medicine, people will kind of argue about what makes Chinese medicine shamanic, but basically Chinese medicine is based on shamanism because Chinese medicine is all about balancing the organ systems and its relationship to these elements, fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, which also then, like the slide before, connect to the seasons and the imbalances that happen maybe when the seasons move. And then you have these different points, which I'm not going to go into because of time, but if you're more interested, there's like a bunch of acupuncturists here that I'm sure can explain the antique points. But these are shamanic in general. Next slide. And they're shamanic because they focus on the spirit of the point. So that's just a picture of me, and so you know I'm legit, I brought my coat. So these are, there's like 400 herbs, and then we learn how to mix them together to find out, how to, bring things back into balance. But this is actually just like one wall, and there's 4 other walls, and this was at the clinic at PCOM. Next slide. So we use rocks, minerals, plants, leaves, all these different aspects of life, and bring it all together and bring people into harmony. Next slide. Okay, so this was somebody that I treated in Peru. He was dieting and he was working again with Ricardo, and he had back pain for like 4 years. Went to chiropractors, other acupuncturists, massage therapists, and I worked with him. And by listening to my guides and the plants, one treatment 90% better. Next slide. So when people are really working with the plants and they're dieting and stuff like that, they're actually more sensitive, so they're more able to really clear things out. So 5-element acupuncture, some people will say that it's daoist, other people will say that it's not. I just put that in there, you can kind of do your own research. But next slide. So this is a shamanic type of acupuncture that really focuses on bringing the spirit to the points and balancing the root, bringing spirit to the points and then also balancing the root of the problem, and it personifies the elements of nature. Differs from TCM and diagnosis and elements. I didn't really get too much into it, but I really like how it also focuses on clearing blockages. So, I've done acupuncture while I was on ayahuasca, and it's really incredible because you actually see where there's blockages and then just right there. Next slide. Okay, so it focuses on the Shen, which is the spirit, and I've got an example. So kidney 24 is one of the points that you can use, like if someone feels very buried under their life. If you've ever met someone before where you just, they're gone, like their spirit's gone, they're just like no spirits. There's so much chaos in their life, you don't even know how to connect with them anymore because their spirit is literally buried. And this point allows you to help them to get buried and then resuscitate them and bring their spirit back. So kidney 24, you can see it over there, third intercostal space. Next slide. And I really want to emphasize, we talk a lot about journeying. Your life is your journey. Your heartbeat is the drum. This journey right here is just a dream. When I was in isolation, I was laying there, and it was right after ceremony, I heard this voice say, "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream." And I just lay there, I was like, whoa. Powerful. Next slide. So how do all of these practices come together? How does everything integrate? This is why you're here, you talk about integration. We can talk about integration of Western medicine and Chinese medicine and obstetrics and gynecology and blah, blah, blah. Okay, all of this to me, everything that you can study, daoism, Chinese medicine, shipibo shamanism, Quechua shamanism, all of it focuses on treating the heart. If you do not have joy in your life, if you cannot laugh, this is why I was telling lame jokes. If you cannot laugh, there is something wrong. Ricardo talks a lot about this. When people come to his center, They are just numb by life. The way that you know that someone's healthy is that they can have these like deep, bellowy laughs. All of their organ systems are open, their jowls are open, energy is flowing. Joy, you look at Buddha, is laughing, Gandhi is laughing. So treating the spirit, which is resting in the heart, you see through the eyes, with your eyes, next slide. So in conclusion, all of these practices focus on, I found these core things. Stay grounded, stay here. How many of you tonight went and drifted off? I know a couple of you. I was watching all of you very closely, except for these guys over here. For some reason, I was kind of over here. Stay here, stay grounded. This is where your life is. Sorry, that was a little preachy. You didn't need to sound Inner harmony. Inner harmony. Feel good. Feel good on the inside. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Develop healthy relationships with yourself, with nature, with spirits. Honor the spirits. Honor yourself. Learn it. If you can't, learn about what that looks like and do it. It'll feel really good. Work in the light. What do I mean by that? For the yogis, you probably know what I'm talking about. Bring the light to your scapulas. Open up your scapulas. Work in the light. If you're not doing what your heart wants you to be doing, then maybe don't do it. Develop inner joy, happiness, and peace. If you don't have it, get it. You buy it at Target, it's like
$3.
$3. Protection, very important. I'll give you a secret. When I was, well, it's not really a secret. When I was in isolation, when I was working with Ayahuasca, I really needed protection, like I said, from the cops. So. I'm not kidding. When you love yourself, you protect yourself. When you love your car, you get car insurance. When you love your bank accounts, you get a really good financial advisor. Right? When you love your boyfriend, you don't cheat on him. When you love your life, you take care of it. You protect it. Because your life is very fragile. And you are very important. You may not even think so. You may not even realize it. But you mean a lot to a lot of people, probably more than you even realize. So it is very important to floss your teeth. Okay, go to bed early. But that is one of the main things that I realized when I lost my friend, was that she did not take care of herself. And she told me that she didn't want to die and she got pressured into doing those drugs. And I feel like if you really love yourself, you will have the courage to say no to things that are not in resonance with your highest and best good. You must be your best advocate. No one else is going to protect you as much as you will. Not your mom, not me, not her over there. I know, maybe she will. She could be really very protective. But yeah. And most importantly, have faith. All of these different practices really focus on how important it is to have faith. So, I hope you learned a couple things. And it was really a pleasure to be able to come up here. I was scared on my mind for days, but I thought I was going to puke. I told my friends to bring a bucket.
Birch bucket.
All right, well, thank you very much. I know it took a really long time to get here. I feel a little weird about having modern medicine woman on there. I gotta advertise yourself somehow, so I don't really know what else to call myself, but that was actually before, so I got approved for my license. My background check went through, so I'm all good. You can call me doctor in 6 months. It's awesome. 10 years of hard work. questions up there. I'm happy to help on your journey. Any questions? Questions that I can answer, though, just tune into what I know, so then I can't really.
Is that Pablo and Maringo's a relation? Brother, right?
Pablo
You
Amaringo?
had,
Ricardo Amaringo?
yeah, is Pablo his brother?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
Yeah, they're cousins. Yeah, they're
Oh, okay.
cousins.
It's Peru. Everyone's related to each other. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah.
Matt, how would you say, I got here about 15 minutes late, but is there a comparison in music-wise between, say, like Chinese medicine and shipibo medicine?
I would not compare them in any way whatsoever. There's Icaros, and then there's, chants in Daoist practice and Daoist ceremony. So yeah, they're very different. They have different purposes, and the shipibo learn from the plants, and then they're able to incorporate the plant's knowledge into the Icaros, and so it's different also in energy and then words, incantations. I mean, all of it essentially is there to help bring peace to the person and different things that they're working through. So, yeah.
Is there any, is it possible to be harmed by the ceremony, not like a real shaman?
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty nasty experiences. Yeah. But I don't really want to go into that because it's going to take a long time. And nasty could be a judgment also. You could look at it a different way, that maybe I was supposed to learn something, but I've had some situations that were maybe not so great. So yeah, you can definitely be harmed, I'm sure. You do some research on that. Yeah. If there's
when you're on a plant diet, what gives you the connection to that specific plant? You're not eating the plant.
Yeah, no, you're taking the plant as a tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're ingesting it, but the way that I work with like my apprentices is that they actually meditate on the plant, so they're able to connect to the consciousness of the plant that I've dieted through connecting with me, so it's a direct transmission. So, yeah.
Have NDEs or near-death experiences played any part in your journeys or your practice, and not necessarily physical ones, but more mental?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, the reason that I brought my lab coat up here is because, in the midst of everything that happened and all the pain that I had experienced with the loss of my friend, I was very suicidal, and I had found myself in front of a train when I was 18, and I was about to jump in front of the train, and as I was about to jump, I felt these arms hold me back, and then I sat back down, and then I was about to jump again, and I heard the train conductor go by, and he goes, "You have so much to live for." And I was just in so much pain over her loss, and right when that happened, I saw this flash of myself in the future with a white lab coat on, and I was in the middle of this center, and I had this little girl with me, and it was the first time in my entire life that I had ever felt peace. I don't know what you would actually call that. I would say that that's a near-death experience. I've had other experiences in ceremony where I, went up the light and met God and all this other stuff. But near-death experiences are very common when you work with dimethyltryptamine and when you work with the shamanic state of consciousness, because that's where you're able to transcend the human experience, which often feels like a near-death experience. The part of you is dying. Does that answer your question?
I'm curious how you feel about other psychedelics.
What?
Curious, yes. I'm curious how you feel about other psychedelics. I've experimented with a lot of different psychedelics, but I feel like I really like, I don't like to do LSD. It's a little bit too much for me. That was more like my college party days. And the shrooms are okay. After ayahuasca, I don't know, nothing really compares, because I'd rather have like a cleaning and a healing. But I think if you're taking the drug or the medicine in a ceremonial healing context, I feel like, and there's a lot of research out there with like MDMA and mushrooms and even marijuana, that it can be a very profound healing experience. It's just, with everything, it's about the context. You all in the back, yeah.
What does it mean to purge, and what forms of purging can be experienced?
Can you repeat the question?
What does it mean to purge? Ryan, help. Oh, man. What does it mean to purge? Well, you're letting go. Essentially, it's like you're letting go of something and it's coming through you. So, you know, if you're sitting there and you're in an ayahuasca ceremony or you're some sort of a ceremony and the shaman is singing something to you to clear, you're going to release it. So like, you know, the other day I was crying about something. So I was actually purging the energy out of my system. You know, you purge when you go to the bathroom, but when you're using psychoactive substances, you're also connecting to the energy of whatever it is that you're purging. You know, maybe it is that you talk to somebody that's really hateful towards you, and then you go to a ceremony and you puke. Well, maybe you're actually taking that energy and transferring it through you and releasing it out of you. You're letting go. There's a very beautiful experience in that too, because sometimes we purge for each other. Like when you take a deep breath in, you might actually be releasing something from the person next to you. I mean, we purge all the time. People are we're purging right now. We're breathing, you know, we're sighing, we're sweating. Maybe someone peed in their pants while we were sitting there.
One
more question. It's gotta be a good one. Oh, crap, Liz. You look very serious.
Yeah. What's a serious question?
Is this okay? Last one.
You mentioned everybody's shaman in San Diego. So how you differentiate between the fakes and the real ones? How you know the difference before you even get into ceremonies and stuff?
That's a good question.
And you also use the word legit many times, so I guess it's important to you too.
Yeah, it is very important to me. I guess someone that's walking the talk. I also kind of don't really care what people call themselves. I care more about their practice, you know, and how I feel when I'm with them, and if they speak with truth and integrity. You know, it doesn't matter how many degrees or how many years you were in isolation or what plants you dieted. To me, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you know, the homeless guy in the street who maybe he's able to open up the door for you or something like that, maybe that slight little energetic thing could purge something from you. You know, it's really important not to have the label and the association with needing to have someone have a certain amount of experience. In my opinion, sometimes the best shamanic practitioners are actually people that are just like IT guys, you know? But in terms of choosing who to work with, I think it really depends on what your preferences are, you know, what you value. So, I'm also happy to answer questions if you want to email me or something like that. It might be challenging questions, but I'm more than happy to offer some of my experience and thoughts about things. So anyway, thank you so very much.